Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the PC Elitist. My name is Woodsy. So, the last couple days, I've been actually fighting a cold, and I didn't go to work even on one of those days, which I do everything I can not to call out of work. I hate calling out of work. But I stayed home to fight off the cold. All my weekend plans were dashed. Um, One big one. Shepard, no less. I was gonna say a friend, but you guys know who Shepard is. He invited me over to his house. We were going to watch the America's Championships of Heroes of the Storm, and I don't know, order pizza. And he had other people that were interested. They were gonna come over. We were gonna have a big old party. He still had the party. I just couldn't go because I was sick, and I was really looking forward to it. But I did watch a lot of it on Twitch. It was very entertaining. Um, yeah, I've been playing a lot of MOBAs recently, and I've been playing a lot of Witcher. I had a sore throat, so I couldn't do a recording while I was sick. But and no one wants to hear all the phlegm coming out of me. I'm sure no one wants to hear that. I'm still a little phlegmy right now, but I feel well enough to do a recording. Anyway, The Witcher. I just want to touch on this for a second. If anyone out there has not played this game, it is just the most wonderful game. I am so into this game. I'm such a huge fan of it. I feel like that small quests that The Witcher sends you on are as interesting and as well put together as lots of other games. Their entire quest string is like, you play one quest string and you're like, what, this is just like some throwaway quest. It's not even like the main quest, and it feels so full and deep. It's such a good experience. It's amazing. And it's unfortunate for the next games I play because, well, they're going to have to hold up to the standard of this game, which, and I mean like real AAA titles that I know a lot of money has been poured into, a lot of time, because I am so impressed with how much they are able to accomplish in just, a production rotation, from Witcher 2 to Witcher 3. I mean, I know there was a long time in between there, but I've seen games in production for a very long time and don't do a tenth of what this game does. So, incredibly impressive. Today at work, there's my coworker. Oh, she's actually my supervisor. She's really into this game called Bastion, she showed me the trailer, and I'm totally interested in getting into that game after I beat The Witcher, but I only have enough bandwidth for one single player game at a time. Everything else goes to multiplayer games, which, right now I'm playing Heroes of the Storm, and I'm also playing Smite. These two MOBAs. I've never played more MOBAs in the last 2 weeks than I am right now. And up until this point, I would have told you that I have really no interest in MOBAs, but Smite is fun, and it's very challenging. I feel like it's more challenging than Heroes is, only in the sense that to learn all the game mechanics is harder, whereas I feel that because Heroes of the Storm is younger, it's got a younger community, it's easier to wrap your head around the strategies and what the metagame is and that kind of thing, and the do's and don'ts. And Smite is a lot harder to do that, but I'm having fun with both. I actually wanted to... Something that's crossed my mind often, I don't know if everyone who listens plays a lot of MOBAs, but... And this happens in strategy games too. But I find it happens in every game. It happens in every multiplayer game, and it's something that frustrates me as a player, is that there's always these number crunchers when it comes to multiplayer. It always comes down to these, which there's this very specific timeline in multiplayer games. When the game first comes out, it's my favorite time to play because everyone hasn't gotten a handle on the game, and it allows you to really work out strategies that people haven't seen before and kind of outsmart your opponent as much as possible. And it seems like as the game continues on, those kind of odd strategies get weeded out in one of two ways. Either the game developers themselves see them as slightly exploitative, like, oh well, we don't really want players to institute these types of, not that I'm exploiting, I have these very strict rules about exploiting game mechanics, but maybe doing things that just people complain about a lot. Maybe a weapon that is seen as too strong, and there is a counter for it, but it requires a little bit of team play, and that's just no good for the developers. They want everyone to be able to like tackle any threat that's in front of them. That happens in the Battlefield series a lot. Either that, or the other way is that just players learn, the community learns to deal with these issues or avoid them altogether. So right in the beginning, like when a game really comes out, a multiplayer game, you get these, you can really like find really fun strategies to pull off, and that's really when I love them the most. But so old communities for me is hard to get into for a multiplayer game. But anyway, the whole point of this is that number crunching, something that frustrates me when it comes to multiplayer games, because, and especially in MOBAs, I've noticed it way more common in MOBAs, because you usually get into like a lobby before the match and people see like what character you're going to pick. And the thing that drives me nuts is that we're not pros, me or any of the other 4 people I'm playing with. Now, I'm on the higher echelon of, I'm talking to Heroes of the Storm right now. I'm on the higher echelon of the ladder. I'm like rank 15. Like 50 is the lowest, and 1 is the highest, and I'm at 15. So I'm, higher than 25, which would be the middle. But I'm certainly not in the like 1 to 5 range, which would be really high. So I'm 15. We're not pros by any means. I mean, there's lots of improvements we can make. But at the same time, a lot of that improvement would come from playing consistently with the same players over and over again, with the same teammates, and really building up strategies from our play style, Like, there's always getting better individually, but when it comes down to it, when you're building a team, like, there are some general rules of like what are the best kind of combinations. Like, you don't want to have all damage dealers, you want some support classes, you want like one guy who could take a lot of hits, you want one warrior, and then you want some damage dealers and a support at least. Like, you don't usually want more than 2 unless you have like a very specific plan by having 2, but usually that's kind of the rule of thumb. But when I get in there, my philosophy is I want you just to pick like who you're most comfortable with. I want you to just play on top of your game regardless of who it is and what the class is, because in this situation, us being the rank we are, playing against the skill level we're going to play against, and all that jazz, it's talking about the metagame and what like the pros on the highest levels of this game are just discussing who the best characters are, like what is like a staple character that should be in every game, really doesn't apply to us, because there's so much room for improvement. We're talking like on the pro level, you want to like eke out what is like 1% better than the next thing, because they're playing at such a high level that 1% is very meaningful. But when you're playing at our level, at my level per se, it just doesn't matter. We're just not good enough to look at that 1% and say it's really important that we have it in this match, because chances are the disparity between the skill of us and the enemy is not going to be a 1% difference. It's not going to be the character that wins us the game or not. So that's just a little rant I'm going on, because this group of people who aren't at the top level of play, who like to think that they only use like the gun that's considered by the pros the best gun or the best character, you're just insane, because it just doesn't matter. But you get a lot of it in Heroes. I used to get a lot of it in like Battlefield. There was always like, this gun is the best gun. Everyone knows it's the best gun. Hey man, why are you using that gun? Everyone knows this other gun's the best gun. It has the best stats. They've crunched the numbers. It does the best damage, and And ultimately, I'm like, well, you know, I actually just like this other gun. And I seem to get a lot of kills with this other gun, whereas the gun you're looking at, I don't really like it that much, and I don't get that many kills. So what would you rather have? Would you rather have me playing with a gun that I get kills with, or one that I don't get kills with? It's very simple. Anyway, so that was just a little rant I had to get out of my system. But I had another subject I wanted to broach with you all, because I was looking through the comments yesterday, and I was responding to quite a few of them. And I apologize if I missed any of you. Adam Ames from True PC Gaming, he had mentioned I had mentioned in a video, like, because we had talked about, you know, social issues that had come up in gaming, or come up in the media of gaming. And here's like a thought I kept having today, and I'm wondering if anybody concurs or has a different viewpoint. But I'm always pro the art of gaming to flourish and grow. I'm always pro, like, I want gaming to get out of its outlook from other people as this like childlike thing we do, but really take its place as an art form. Now, that's not to say that every video game is a work of art, but there's lots of art that goes into a video game. So anyway, we were discussing, you know, how frustrating it is when media kind of infuses politics into video games. But I think any one of us could argue that there's lots of politics sometimes, or social outlooks, or philosophy in games already. There's already plenty of games that already have these things imbued in them and make us think deeper on an issue or whatnot. And I really think that as video games grow older and become more normative, that they will probably, and I don't look forward to this day necessarily. I just think that games will become more of a mouthpiece for certain types of messaging, and I think it'll be more common that we will see like preaching in a video game, which is not something I don't think any of us really want, because I think most of us use video games as sort of an escape. But that doesn't mean there isn't powerful analogies to be made. I kind of like think about like Star Trek and how that was seen as very, you know, forward thinking to write shows that were kind of analogous to things going on in real life, and to look at it in a different way, but through the show. So I don't know that games have done that a lot. I mean, I think I've seen it. And there's definitely been games that I haven't really played firsthand that I think do that. But as this becomes more of a way that people express themselves, we're gonna get more of that. And I guess here's where, like, I have two like modes of thinking, and I'm not sure exactly which side I favor. But on the one hand, when a medium is used to talk about social issues or you know, political statements or whatever, I feel like they've like really matured into a legitimate art form, because art for the you know, centuries has been used to make political statements and like statements about society and whatnot, you know, and that's just part of what it is. So, like, on the one hand, to me, that signifies that, like, gaming has really come into its own as something important. But on the other hand, I use gaming as an escape. Like, I don't really want to deal with, like, all this garbage going on in the real world, because, I mean, I deal with that in other ways, and I use my gaming as an escape. So I don't want to be preached to, whether I agree with the messaging or not, in my video games, because that's not what I'm here to do. So I have these like two thoughts that kind of compete with each other. On the one hand, I feel like it really kind of solidifies the gaming as an art form when it starts to really get into these heavy matters. But on the other hand, I don't really want it to get into heavy matters. So, I mean, you could always say, like, well, just don't play those games. But eventually, what I see happening is those games will be around, even whether I play them or not. There will be people who want to dissect what those games are saying and either agree with them or not. And all of a sudden, we're seeing lots of talk of politics in our video games or societal issues in our video games. And I mean, maybe that day is already here. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it. I still feel like most video game developers are just going to kind of hands off it. But I feel like it will only be a growing issue. So I'm not sure how I feel about it. But I am curious to know how you guys feel about it. If you guys sense it on the horizon, maybe you feel like it's already here. Like, oh man, games are always preaching to me, or maybe you haven't noticed. I don't know, but I'm curious to know what you think. Please leave a comment. I will be happy to read it, and let's continue the discussion. I will see you guys next time.